it's a great delight that I get to have this person attend board meetings every year, and it's of his vast experience and Commander-in-Chief of Pacific Forces. And so, sir, you've already got this ship moving. So,
okay. So, as all good fighter pilots will understand, you have to set out the rules of engagement before you get underway. So, this is entirely fictional. Nothing we say, nothing we do bears any resemblance to real-world events. We're going to play out a scenario here. Don't anybody think that that this is an attempt to influence behavior on any leader's part, because we're going to have some pretty senior folks here in just a minute. And we're going to keep it unclassified. So you may know one of you guys who's going to be appointed here, the commanding officer of the Liaoning, if I'm saying that right. You may know of certain characteristics that the Chinese carrier has. Keep it unclassified. Has to be unclassed. So, and the role to which you're appointed, please don't try and play President Obama. You will be the president, but I'd like for you to react as you would react. Don't try and think of how the president would react, either ours or theirs. So we'll start on the low end of the chain of command, and I need a commanding officer of one of our, of the USS Chancellorsville, one of our Aegis destroyers. You're it. Come with me, please. I need the commanding officer of a Chinese frigate. Ma'am, please. Okay, you guys come up here. We're in the South China Sea now. You're the U.S. guy, you're the Chinese girl, so you stay over here for just a minute. Let's see, I need the commanding officer of the Chinese carrier in the red jacket, please. You go over with your escort ship, please. I need the commander of the Pacific Command. This is just like school. Everybody's got their head down and covering up their name tags. You didn't do a good enough job. You're Sink Pack, please. So you go with the Arleigh Burke destroyer guy. Let's see. I need a chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Andrew, congratulations. Or condolences. You're on the American side. I need the head of the Chinese Navy, Admiral Wu. Another Andrew. You're the head of the Chinese Navy. Go over on the China side, please, promptly. I need a Minister of Foreign Affairs for China. Sir, please. You're the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Remember your roles. I won't be able to keep track of who's who here. I need the Foreign Minister from China. Sir, would you please? You're the Foreign Minister for China. And I need a Xi Jinping counterpart. Kathy, would you serve as the president of China, please? Okay, how far up? Let's see, we've got Locklear, we got the chairman. I need the Secretary of Defense. Would you, sir, serve as Secretary of Defense, please? Secretary of State. Okay, finally. And the President of the United States. Who's the youngest person in the room? I'm guessing not you. Youngest person in the room.
I'd be a naval officer, don't you think?
You're the president, please. Okay. Yeah, we didn't pick the boat school guy, so. Here's what we're gonna do. Now, where's the carrier CO? Chinese carrier CO. You, stand right here, please. You're conducting flight operations. Where's the Chinese escort ship commander? You get just right about here. Okay. The USS Chancellorsville CO, that's you. So you get right about over here, a little further. Okay. Now what we're going to do, it's about 1900, 7 p.m. in the South China Sea. You're conducting flight operations. Now, I can't go any further without a little editorial comment. The Chinese have an aircraft carrier, and mention has been made. Great, congratulations. The Russians mothballed this thing, okay? It's 40 years old or so. Some of us have seen it from this position, others have seen it from this position when it was a Russian ship. The Chinese did a nice job retrofitting it. It's out there working. Congratulations, China. You're closer to a maritime power now. They got 6 guys that can fly off the carrier, and they have 6 airplanes that are built to land on carriers. 6. They don't fly at night, they don't fly in bad weather. So they are operating aircraft jets, nice jets off the aircraft carrier. They have a ways to go before they get to where the French are flying off an aircraft carrier. So keep that in mind if you would please. So what we have here, we've got the commander of the Chinese carrier who's conducting flight ops, and they're just wrapping up the last event of the day. So you're recovering about 4 or 5 airplanes, but you notice on the horizon the USS Chancellorsville. You're in the South China Sea, international water, and Chancellorsville turns and comes up and begins to approach your carrier. No, don't. Woo, we picked the right one. Oh, yeah. The Chinese frigate gets an order from the Chinese carrier, go try and get in the way of the Chancellorsville, so Chancellorsville doesn't get much closer than we would like Chancellorsville to get. How close is that? I don't know, 3 miles, 2 miles, inside a mile? Chancellorsville's allowed, okay? They're following the rules of the road. I think Naval Academy professors would agree. So you come up here and you're going on a passage, but the Chinese frigate goes not so fast. All of a sudden, the Chinese frigate has a steering casualty. Wow. Bad news. And
I bumped it.
no, you don't bump them. You run into them with about 20 knots on. It's very bad. Chancellorsville has a big T-bone Chancellorsville. So your bow is stuck in the starboard flank of Chancellorsville, and you're both dead in the water. It's getting dark. CO Chancellorsville, what's your first thought?
I'm gonna call somebody and.
Who? Try sync pack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
I'm not gonna help you. What do you tell them?
I hit a Chinese ship,
Or
or
did the
the Chinese ship hit me.
It wouldn't matter
Yeah,
what you say,
yeah.
Captain. It would matter what you say, and this is unfolding just fine. Your first reaction, Skipper?
I call back
She
to,
can see it.
oh, she see,
You're within a mile, half a mile.
okay,
You're clearly close.
well then I'm gonna call back to whoever is back here.
If I were you, I'd recommend doing what you said.
I said call her first,
Right? Then,
and then my admiral.
okay, and what are you gonna tell, not the CO of the carrier, because they got it figured out. What are you gonna tell Admiral Wu?
He got in my way and I had to hit him.
Okay. Complicating things. Now, both captains would conduct a muster, and you'd say, do I have all hands accounted for? You can't find 7 sailors. This takes about 30 minutes. It shouldn't take that long, but this is bad news. You can't find about 5. So between you, you got a dozen, men, women, doesn't matter. You just can't, you don't, in the first muster, they're unaccounted for. Do you report that up right away?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, so who's sync pack? You receive a phone message from Chancellorsville, and you learn that we've had a significant collision at sea, and there are sailors missing from both ships. What do?
Find out where sorry about this. Find out where the nearest assets are nearby, first of all.
Is that coming through, by the way?
No. Sorry.
That's all right. Okay, use it.
Yeah, so find out where the nearest assets are, sir, surface assets, and then probably call it up to the JCS or whoever the higher command authority is.
Okay, pretty smart. Admiral Wu, you get the call, both from the carrier and from the ship COs saying we have a disastrous situation. We're missing some sailors. I am currently stuck, literally, physically, on the side of the Chancellorsville, and I've got my aircraft carrier close by.
Presidency, I don't want to make a mistake. Please call a meeting.
I hadn't thought of that. Okay, back to me, please. Secretary of Defense, you get a call fairly quick. Now, this is all happening pretty much with today's technology, within a couple of minutes. So, did I get the chairman? Did I skip the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff? Yeah. You guys, you're in Hawaii. You're in Washington. This is about, now it's 7:15 in the South China Sea. It's getting dark. Sea state's picking up. Oh, swell.
Taking on water.
Cool your jets. Cool your jets. You're just waking. It's the middle of the night for you in Hawaii. You're waking up. You're coming to the office, and you get the phone call in the car from the admiral, from Admiral Price, who tells you what sketchy information he has. What are you going to do?
Call the Secretary of Defense? Or the White House?
Okay. Now, well, he's in the Pentagon too.
Okay.
So you just take the call, and right away you just say, I'll get back to you. Sync pack, and you call SecDef.
Yeah,
Who's SecDef?
this guy.
Now, you get a phone call. It's now about 40 minutes since both the ships have collided. Still, best you know, there are sailors missing. Who knows how many? About a dozen. Who knows which side? And there's some uncertainty because it's getting dark there. Your first and second response, and what do you do?
I would want to know what exactly happened and what assets we have to deal with it. And then I would
You're not
want
going to know what happened for hours and hours. You only are aware that a Chinese named PLAN ship has T-boned a United States Aegis cruiser in the South China Sea, and there's likely loss of life, and it's getting dark.
And then I would contact the White House and the State
Go ahead,
Department.
call
White House? Mr. President, we have a situation.
them.
I'm the Secretary of State.
Oh, you're Secretary of State. President, sorry. Come on up here, Madam President.
Well, that may be better, actually. It may be cabinet first.
Don't. Call the President.
Call the President. Mr. President, we have a situation. It may sound worse than it is, but it's pretty bad.
So, Madam President, it's now about an hour, 45 minutes after the mishap. No further information coming, and you have been told by your Secretary of Defense that I'll assume he has said there's been a collision at sea in the South China Sea. It's getting dark there. There's probably loss of life. What would you like us to do, Madam President?
So have I already met with my advisors and my?
Well, it's the first notification you
Okay.
get. It's about 7:45 in the morning.
So I might want to meet with some advisors, people who know China, try to figure out if there's been any kind of official statement from the Chinese yet, and see if if we should apologize to the Chinese or if we should make a statement. Of course, we'd be concerned about the loss of American lives. I might want to go on TV and make a statement.
Interesting. Okay. What would you expect your Secretary of State to do?
Probably reach out to his counterpart, his Chinese counterpart.
Pick up the phone, dial the number to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in China. Who's that? Minister of Foreign Affairs. So Brian, Mr. Secretary, you call your cables folks, get a hold of the Chinese minister. They call his office, and it rings, and it rings, and it rings. Anybody been there? But eventually, someone picks it up and answers in Chinese, and so start now. The phone has been answered by someone speaking in Chinese who say in Chinese, good evening, you have reached the Minister of Foreign Affairs office. It's now almost 8 p.m. in Beijing.
Am I answering in Chinese or?
No.
Okay. So what's going
That would
on?
be pretty good if you could, but no, you're not. You don't speak Mandarin.
Okay. So how's the situation over there?
Presumably, the person who answered the phone knows that it's someone from the United States State Department phoning.
Assume, it's not automatic, believe me, but I think it's fair to assume for the sake of this drill. So the receptionist gets you the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So you are now in English on the same phone line, unclassified. Your
Do
call.
I know about this incident?
No.
Good.
Assume, likely you would, but just assume for fun, that the first indication, presuming that our Secretary of State is gonna tell you about it, but you're now on the phone and you say hello, and you come up and say,
Hello, this is the U.S. Secretary of State. Looks like we got a situation in the South China Sea. Chinese ship collided with a U.S. ship. Allegedly. We have...
Worse than the Chinese.
That's true. It's a bit of a problem.
Well,
let me stop right here. There's now a fire on the Chancellorsville. It's a bad, because you have plowed in, the Chinese ship plowed into the engine room, and initial attempts at set general quarters, and there's a significant fire in the main engine room of the Chancellorsville. So you're on fire. What do you do? Now, this conversation is still ongoing, I assume, but what's your next?
I'm letting the guy.
Let the guy in Hawaii know. And, oh, by the way, are any of the three ships, and there's nothing else close by. I think you said, what's in the area? Nothing. So it's you guys. And it's getting dark and you see strobe lights in the water.
So those are survival.
Yeah.
things.
What do you do?
Well, I'm assuming either the frigate or the aircraft carriers got some sort of small rescue boats they can
They
deploy
do. Yeah, they're
and
literally
start
little rowboat-like things.
start plucking survivors and
Do
start
you
pulling.
discriminate between Chinese and American sailors?
No.
So you could likely end up with, let's say for drill, you have 3 American sailors, one of them badly injured in your rescue boat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Is your conversation concluded? Have you guys satisfied each other's?
Well, no, my point is that I have to consult with my side, and I cannot make any comment on your allegation.
And you?
And my point is that the buck has been passed to me, and nobody on my side wants to take responsibility.
Who's the president? I would assume that you would say, I gotta get a hold of Mr. Big in a hurry. What do you tell your president?
I tell my president that I just heard from my American equivalent that there's been an accident at sea involving one of our ships and one of their ships, and some sailors on both sides have been lost.
Okay? You're on fire. You're picking sailors out of the water. What do you do?
We're supporting them right now, trying to make sure.
Okay, so the
Save
carrier
everything.
turns into a response vessel,
Yes.
if you will. And you're likely to have better medical facilities on board than he's on fire and you don't know what he has. She's not on fire yet, but
if
badly
he blows,
damaged.
I'm going with him.
You're stuck.
Yeah.
Can't get out. You guys are joined at the hip, if you will. So your situation, while dynamic, it's fairly static. Are you gonna stay close by, or are you gonna proceed back to, I think it's Jingdao, is that where the carrier's from? Are you gonna leave?
I leaned over and
I
said,
would stay
save
close by."
yourself, because
Oh.
I leaned over while you were talking and said, save yourself, because she is the flagship aircraft carrier, and
Interesting.
she's
I saw
a
that.
valuable asset.
Everybody get that? The frigate CO said, Paul Bacon to the carrier CO,
That might be
leave.
really bad politically.
Well, okay, but nonetheless, that's a gut reaction. Okay, Madam President, do you have any intention of calling or taking a call from the President of the United States?
No, I think I'll.
Too bad for you.
Please call her.
You want me to call she?
Yeah, please. Assume quickly, you got translators on both ends.
Ring,
You
ring.
now have President Xi on the phone. Your first words.
I have President Xi on the phone?
You're talking
Okay.
to her her right now.
Okay.
But don't think like Obama might think. Think like you would think. And don't worry about how she would think. Worry about how she.
That's not confusing at all. So President Xi, my advisors have told me that we've had an incident involving 2 of our ships, and there may be a loss of life. I think the most important thing is that you've expressed to me that we are, having a new type of major power relationship. I want to make sure that we can resolve this, quickly and, well for both of our sides.
To which you reply,
We'll, we'll get we'll get into the to investigate the situation, and we'll also send some ship over there to
okay.
or more ship to the scene.
So no finger pointing yet at the highest levels. Your guys hit my guys, none of that. You're aware of potential injuries or worse.
Right.
So are you by now, I think. Word's gotten back that this guy's on fire, you're missing some sailors, you're plucking kids out of the water, and that's reached everybody's, the chain of command is aware, and it's about an hour and a half later now. All right, the last move, you suddenly lose your radios. But you don't think it's due to a casualty to your ship. But who's SyncPack? He's trying to call you, and he's unable to contact.
So he's got to assume he's lost the ship if he can't reach it.
Well, what's your first reaction? You say to your comm guys, okay, if I can pass me through to Chancellorsville, because he talked to you 30 minutes ago. You've been working the phones to all these guys and girls. You say, I want to get back in touch with the captain of Chancellorsville. Nothing.
Sir, he told me that he was T-boned, so I mean, it could have just been a major systems failure. And also, maybe I was aware of the fire. I don't know if I was aware of the fire. But...
You were just learning of it.
Okay, so if I was just learning of it, then maybe it escalated quickly and it got to the comm rank.
Does it cross your mind that this might be, rather than passive equipment failure, that it might be an active approach to the challenge?
It would, sir, but there's not too much I can do about it. If there is, there's no assets in the area.
Is that an act of war? If you think that in fact someone is actively denying essential emergency communications?
That'd be an interesting question.
Yeah, it is. Thanks, everybody. So I think those are the points that I wanted to make. In other rooms, in other times, as some of us in this room have played these scenarios out, that question was the one that threw us the biggest curveball. Is denial of communications an act of war? Now we've got an accident. It's not certain, though not impossible, that an aggressive Chinese frigate captain said, I'll be damned if I'm going to let Chancellorsville get close. And instead of just shouldering, though you did have a steering casualty, it's not beyond the pale that somebody said, all right, not on my watch. And I think it's extremely unlikely. So, and then there are sailors in the water, or people, there are flashing lights in the water. You say, oh yeah, I'm going to pick them up. And you opted to stick around. I think.
Against what
I
said.
In Chinese Navy, you're just a knuckle-dragging commander. This is a very senior captain. So your recommendation, a little brash, but I think she would not follow it. She's going to stick around. So you guys are essentially out of the picture. Thanks. Sit down. Thanks very much. The two presidents are reacting normally, I would say. You want to establish communications quickly. No finger pointing yet. Expressing condolences to the other, and we'll send ships down to help. I think that would have been a recommendation to you, though I said to you there aren't any ships nearby. The ministers of foreign affairs got a big role here yet. Likely, some folks are going to recommend that the U.S. demarche China because it's clear that they did not observe the rules of the road. But that's in the days and hours and days following. So presidents, sit tight for just a second. Ministers, Secretary of State and Minister of Foreign Affairs, you're done. And thank you. You're Admiral Wu, and you're SyncPack. You're done. Thanks. What were you doing here? Oh, you're chairman. Yeah, I didn't give you a chance to call your counterpart. Why do you think that is? Bingo. The Chinese have the temerity to have a chain of command that's different than ours. But that's a challenge. I guarantee you. When we had China when we had the China had a cold snap at what was it, the Guangzhou railway station, where there were hundreds of thousands of people going on spring, their annual big vacation, and we launched two C-17s to go, and we thought we'd let the Chinese know that these C-17s are coming. We just kind of did it. That's one of the great things about being the commander of the Hawaiian Command. You can do stuff, and it's really fabulous. So we launched two C-17s out of ADAC, and they started on the way, and I had to get a hold of somebody in China. There's no counterpart to the commander of the Pacific Command. So I knew Lieutenant General Ma. Some of you may be familiar with Ma. I knew him, and I tried to activate the Beijing hotline. We talked to somebody about this a little bit earlier. It took me 45 minutes to get him, but I actually got Ma on the phone, and through a translator, I was able to tell him. So it's not clear who the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff would call, if anybody. But if I were you, I'd want to call somebody, just to establish some sort of linkage here, because there are people dying, you got ships in grave jeopardy, you're a long way from home, a lot closer to China. There must be something I could convey and receive if I'm the chairman. But I'm not quite sure what to tell you to do, other than sit down. You're CINCPAC, you're Commander of the Pacific. This is your rose, this is your baby. What do you think the next one or two most important things are for you to consider and to do?
So there's no assets in the area. Again, that's been established, right?
Well, you've got the Yokosuka battle group.
Okay. So scramble any air assets that we can get there quickly, just to get eyes on and try and get comms on.
Good.
And then aside from that, maybe start coordinating with my peers on the other side with the approval of the White House and the rest of the chain of command.
Yeah. Important point. It seems to me, as I just kind of chuckled a minute ago, when you're CINCPAC, when you run the Hawaii, the commander of the Pacific forces, you have operational control of those forces. Nobody else enjoys that. Not Central Command, not European. The European Command has some, but in Hawaii, I had 325,000. I had ships, I had airplanes, and I can move them. Now, it's a pretty good idea to check in with Mrs. Big back here, but you can move them around. So that's a luxury we enjoy in the Pacific. You can start stuff moving and of course inform the President and the just dismissed Secretary of Defense. But you can get them going literally with a phone call. So ships out of Yokosuka, airplanes that may be on exercises in the Philippines, anything that's within 1,000 miles, I would think you'd want to get them going.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Do you have any inclination to call anybody in China?
Yes, sir. Whoever I have close personal ties with, you can get a hold of quickly.
Probably Wu, who was just dismissed, wasn't he? Yeah. You probably know Wu by now, and you'd send him home. Okay, thanks. Carrier CO. What are you going to do?
So I'm going to give
It's now an hour and a half later, 2 hours later.
So I'm going to keep reporting to Admiral Wu what's going on with the casualties, the status, and as well as what's going on with the carrier, and start working on my story of what actually happened.
Okay. Do you have any major concern?
When it outside casualties, because that is a major concern, the status of my ship as well as what the actual intent behind.
Now you have 5 American sailors on board, 3 of whom are badly injured.
So one, I don't want to lose any of them, right, at this point. So we're making sure we're giving all the medical care that we can give, as well as trying to get additional help or start getting them back to a location where we can get them the medical attention they need.
Nicely done. Thanks. Madam President, your last thoughts. Your closing thoughts, I should say. Probably better.
Public statement or just for internal? If for the public, I might first condemn the U.S. for irresponsible behavior to charging and interfere the course. but we'll try to not to escalate the situation.
Okay? Final words from the President of the United States.
Put me in a very tough position, President Xi. I think it would be hard. I think I would probably try to continue to get an accurate story of what happened.
That's probably hours away because now Chancellorsville can't talk.
I think I would. Where's my Henry Kissinger? I think I would probably try to keep things calm, and try to operate as much behind the scenes as possible because I don't want to make this a huge bilateral incident, and I know the Chinese don't want to do it either.
And they're yapping.
Okay.
They are saying we need to hear from our commander-in-chief. Do you acknowledge that request? Do you go down to the press room? It's now 5 hours later. It's 10 o'clock in the morning at Washington, D.C. on a Friday.
I'm not sure if I would do it personally. Wait, how many?
Who would you send?
Maybe my press secretary.
Okay.
Or maybe somebody higher.
Yeah, I think the Secretary of Defense maybe.
Secretary of Defense, maybe, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, it depends. Do we lose? We have lost lives, or?
It's pretty clear when we last had comms with Chancellorsville, we were not certain.
Okay.
But she's on fire, and the man on board muster still. Last we knew, there were sailors missing, about a half a dozen of ours, and a similar number of China's.
In that case,
that's hours old, and we have no way of looking. They're silent.
In that case, it might warrant a public statement from the president, and emphasize, U.S. interests in the region, but not say anything too inflammatory that would get the Chinese riled up.
Okay. Any last thoughts? Okay, thank you very much. Nicely done. Yeah, great. One question. Sir.
Yes, I don't think I have a microphone. Admiral, you said that when you did games like this, when you gamed this with your colleagues, the tough part was knowing whether to assume that communications had been deliberately cut off and whether that constituted an act of war. That you said that was the toughest part you found to deal with.
Correct.
As a civilian, I'm assuming there's some kind of a presumption that when you don't know what the hell is going on, you make the choice that is least likely to lead to escalation. Is that a reasonable assumption?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a reasonable assumption. In the minutes and hours of uncertainty, for example, Tuesday, the 11th of September, I was in the Pentagon, and we didn't know. We knew that this was New York City, Pentagon, 9:35, building shook. That exact second, I went, uh-oh, this is different. And sure enough, but for a couple hours, when our command center was obliterated, and as the ops officer, I had to go somewhere. I couldn't go down to the command center. I should have been there, but so I went. So to answer your question, there is the quote fog of war. It may not be war, but you don't know what happened. Chancellorsville can't talk. There is possible denial of service. It isn't necessarily the smart move to go, well, all right, we'll get the bastards. You try and exercise all manner of options, and that's where good staff people, good lawyers, good public affairs officials, good chaplains, you surround yourself with right-thinking, smart folks of all stripes and ask for opinions. Somebody's got to make the decision up to, where'd our president go? Up to the president, but in the immediate aftermath, don't assume the worst unless you know that it's the worst. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Enjoyable. I hope it was beneficial.
Thank you very much, Admiral Keating. It's a great pleasure to have you here, and thank you everyone for coming. And we'll be making these DVDs available, and maybe even post this on YouTube. So thanks for everyone for coming. We'll see you next year. Take care.